It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to the California Report at randywangradio.substack.com. Let's get into today's California Report for Friday, March 6, 2026. This is my daily list of all the things that I listened to that I thought were worth bringing to your attention that are part of my show prep. So let's start in Southern California, where there was a huge bust yesterday, a joint operation between the feds and the LAPD taking down a whole bunch of higher-up members of the 18th Street Gang, one of the gangs that pretty much controls the supply of drugs inside MacArthur Park. I'm so glad to see that some of these investigations might take years. It's not like The Wire where they do it in a couple of months, but they're actually going after some of the worst here, who, by the way, have been hiding their drugs and their whole machine inside tents, inside homeless encampments in MacArthur Park, which is just yet another reason why all of that has to go. That's not going to happen as long as Karen Bass and Ulysses Hernandez are in charge, but this bust definitely demystifies the nonsense Karen Bass was spouting when the feds descended upon MacArthur Park last summer, saying, "There's nothing here. What are you talking about? This is where kids go to play in summer camp." We know what's really going on at MacArthur Park. Now, I'm sure you have noticed gas prices are going up. And this is partially because of what's going on in Iran right now and the fact that California is more dependent on foreign oil than any other state. But it also has to do with, once again, issues when it comes to California environmental regulations and refineries. And the California Air Resources Board is set to vote on some new restrictions and some increases to cap and trade, although they now call it cap and invest, that will make it even more difficult for refiners to operate. And Chevron is already speaking out, sounding the alarm that this could drive them out of the state, which we're already losing the one in Benicia. We already lost Phillips 66. We don't have that many left. And the problem that I have when it's that we need to do this for cap and trade is the whole concept of cap and trade sounds good. Okay, we have companies that are polluting, so we need them to offset their pollution by doing things like planting trees in the rainforest. In practice, what has cap and trade been used for, and what is it currently being used for? Well, all of the extra money that you are paying every time you fill up your gas tank is going towards high-speed rail, a project that hasn't cleaned any air because it still does not exist. It is a massive boondoggle. What is a program that the state of California used with cap and trade money last year? Vouchers on e-bikes. That's right. We were giving out $2,000 vouchers to make it cheaper for parents to buy e-bikes for their bratty kids. And the whole idea is, well, if we get people more access to e-bikes, it will take cars off the road. It did not take cars off the road, and it massively increased the popularity of e-bikes among teens who modify them into motorcycles and get in all kinds of trouble. So we'll be watching that. But once again, and also, this is something I've been just struggling with. Climate change is supposed to be a global issue, correct? So whether we pump the oil here or we pump it in the Middle East, it's the same atmosphere. It's the same planet. The air moves throughout the country. So does it really make a difference whether we pump it in the Middle East or in Kern County? And I say that because, well, if we were pumping more of it in Kern County where they want to pump it, we wouldn't have to worry about what's going on in the rest of the world. We would be resilient. Now, will we eventually get off of this and will we transition to other fuels? Yes, but it is happening way slower than all of these mandates, and all of these CARB regulations to get us to our climate goals are going to cause a lot of pain for the average person. Now, we told you yesterday about this illegal nursing home in Carson. We're starting to see some of the stories that are going on out there, including one woman who described her father getting beaten up by the staff over there, and they couldn't even do anything because a lot of the people here are suffering from Alzheimer's, and they can't testify as to what happened to them because they don't know what happened to them. It's really awful, and we need to be shining a much bigger light on what's going on in home health care because that industry is only going to get larger. There are more people turning 65 every single day than ever have been before. And as the boomers age up, we got to figure out ways to take care of them. But it's also going to lead to more and more people trying to scam the system, including this couple that was billing Medicare and not taking care of people. They were practically warehousing the elderly. It's a nightmare. I don't know if, this is one of those things where other countries kind of have this more figured out where, the whole idea of, well, your parents get elderly, they move in with you, you move in with them, you take care of them. But, a lot of people don't want to do that here. I don't think I want to do that, but you got to be real careful in knowing if your parents are going into a home, what kind of home they're going into, because there were a lot of parents that were suffering in this illegal nursing home in Carson. And speaking of suffering, I'm so glad that Matthew Seedorf did this story as we're continuing to see more and more rescuers and volunteers photo documenting the horrific animal abuse we see on a daily basis in South LA, in Skid Row. And these stories, it's almost hard to even listen to without just breaking out in tears, where you have one instance of a cat that was being shot with a BB gun. You have animals that are being bagged up in trash bags and being left for dead. It's awful. It's horrible. And there's two things going on here. One, the city doesn't want to admit that this is happening, so they're not doing anything about it. And we don't have nearly enough teeth to make sure that we are going after serial animal abusers because, they're homeless. They're suffering from poverty. Yeah, well, you know what? I don't care if you're homeless. If you're illegally breeding dogs to the point where it is killing them, you got to go. We're supposed to have a license system for this. But it seems that all rules, regulations, and laws just don't exist anymore once you get to Skid Row. And I don't know who I'm supporting for mayor in 2026, but I'm going to tell you right now, the candidate that gets my vote is the candidate that says they are going to actually clean up Skid Row. And not any of this nonsense of, we need to get people housed. There is so much criminal activity going on every single day, and we need to stop it. And in Los Angeles, we have quite a few big international events coming up over the next few years. We have the World Cup, we have the Super Bowl, and of course, we have the Olympics. And one of the things that you're going to be seeing a lot of as we get closer to those big events is people putting up their homes on Airbnb because they don't want to be here with all the crowds. And more importantly, they want to cash in. And you know what? Good for them. More power to them. I have been thinking about this for a really long time when it comes to, do I want to be here for the 2028 Olympics? And I don't necessarily think that I do. I'm close to some of the Olympic venues. I don't know if they're going to use it again, but archery was at Woodley Park in the 80s. They're supposed to do 3-on-3 basketball and BMX and skateboarding in the Sepulveda Basin, the area that's lit on fire all the time. But I kind of wonder what it would be like. Could I just rent out my place for 6 weeks, get out of Dodge, and go stay in Santa Fe? But then comes to the cat issue of all this. It's very easy for me to travel, and it's very easy for my wife to travel, and even for our dogs. How am I getting the cat out of this house in order to put it up on Airbnb? Am I driving the cat to Santa Fe? That will be the longest 12 hours of my life. Am I flying the cat to Santa Fe? That will be the worst airplane ride for everybody involved. So I haven't figured that one out. Traveling with dogs is one thing. Traveling with a cat, especially my whiny cat, can't even imagine it. Plus, she's old now. She's 13. By 2028, she'll be 15 or 16. I don't know if I want to put her through that. Maybe we'll just, pay someone to house it. Hey, you want to come watch the Olympics? You got to watch the cat. And in the Bay Area, speaking of travel, there was an elderly couple that almost had their vacation to Egypt ruined by a simple error. This couple was booking a trip on points through Capital One, and the husband, when he was putting in the names of the travelers, him and his wife, he accidentally put down the wrong middle name for his wife. He put down her maiden middle name when what's on her passport is her maiden name as her middle name. And they realized it right before and went through a nightmare of trying to call the airline, try to call Capital One, try to call everybody involved to get it fixed. Nobody could get it fixed. They reached out to ABC7 in the Bay Area, and what do you know? They were able to get it fixed. But it got so bad that this couple, they Googled, how do I change the name on a passport? How can I talk to somebody at Lufthansa or Capital One? And this poor woman ends up clicking on a link, connecting them to somebody that said they could help them, that charged them $1,000 and did nothing. Because, of course, scammers are everywhere. And there's a Bay Area sleep doctor that has been charged with all kinds of accusations of sexual battery and sexual misconduct with his patients. And here's the really egregious thing. He's had these charges for a while, and he's still practicing. He still has his license because apparently the state medical board moves slow as molasses and can't even adjudicate. What if they're false accusations? Shouldn't you want to adjudicate that immediately? Apparently, he's not currently seeing patients because NBC Bay is on to him. But oh boy, does that make you feel uncomfortable. And we told you about the businesses in San Jose, East San Jose, that are losing business and might have to close up shop because of the nonstop construction of the light rail extension by the VTA. The VTA is now offering those businesses $50,000 grants, and the businesses are like, that's nice, but that's not going to cover a damn thing. And finally, in the Bay Area, there's an update with my girl, who I miss dearly, Sheng-Yi Tao.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because Sheng Tao and her co-defendants in the corruption trial of the former mayor of Oakland were in court trying to get a motion to throw out all the evidence that the FBI got in the raid because they say that FBI raid was illegal because the search warrant was based on the testimony of an unreliable witness, that being the ex-business partner of the Dong family, Mario Juarez, the guy that was paid to put out racist flyers against Sheng Tao's opponent in the mayor's race, Lauren Taylor, who then stiffed the printer, who then alleged that the Dongs put a hit out on him when this guy named Hermelindo Ramos was handed a gun and said start shooting. But then it turns out Mario Juarez took the first shot. Look, I know a lot about this case, and I'm very interested to see what happens when it goes to trial. But I don't think the judge is going to buy that none of the evidence of this obvious criminal enterprise where they were taking shipping containers and convincing cities to buy them with kickbacks for $300,000 a unit is going to stick. So unfortunately, Sheng-Yi, unless you want to roll on your benefactors, including your boyfriend, who I think talked you into all this, you're going to wait for a long time, my friend.
Oakland Bees!
We got a lot more here coming up on the California Report, so stick with us. I put this list together every single day, and it helps me be better organized to put it all on a visual platform, and I figured, why not share it with you? So subscribe for free today, randywangradio.com. Substack.com. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's continue with today's California report at randywangradio.substack.com. Still fresh in everybody's minds is the criminal justice reform nonsense of elder parole after that monster, David Allen Funston, was about to be let out after only serving a portion of his 3 life terms for kidnapping and sexually assaulting several children, all under the age of 8. Well, he got rearrested thanks to Placer County putting up new charges on a case they did not file back in the 90s because they thought, oh, he's going away forever. Well, State Senator Roger Niello is putting forth a bill that will make changes to California's nonsensical elder parole program, including making sure that you're not eligible for this if you are a sexual violent predator. That being said, the whole idea that we're calling someone at the age of 50 an elderly person in the prison system is nonsense. And I hope more attention gets paid to reversing that thing entirely. Also, Roger Niello was there on ABC 10 for an unrelated story. He is putting forth a bill to end daylight savings time. And if that sounds familiar, it's because I've been doing this job for, this is my 20th year in radio. And for all 20 years, I have heard of a member of the California legislature or a member of Congress putting forth a bill to end daylight savings time. I think we even voted on that in an election once, but what do you know? It persists and your clocks are moving forward this weekend. In San Diego, this is a bizarre one. San Diego school boards, a lot of these San Diego County schools are facing big budget deficits, but that being said, a new state law has given these school boards abilities to vote for raises for themselves. And some of these school boards have given themselves 300 to 400% raises. Now, these aren't full-time jobs, but still, who thinks that's appropriate? And there's a lot going on in the California's governor's race, including Ian Calderon talking to Ashley Zavala about why he dropped out. He is endorsing Eric Swalwell, so his 0% will go there. Tom Steyer sat down with ABC 10, and he is campaigning all in on defanging Prop 13 through the, quote, split roll initiative. But that's right, he's running on the platform of raising taxes. I'm actually in the middle of listening to him on a podcast with this like Twitch kid, and they're talking about the merits and demerits of socialism. It's, well, it was an interesting listen during my lunch break. Javier Becerra sat down with KQED, and I did not learn anything from it, but you can listen to it if you've got a half hour. Javier Becerra is this, he's just, I don't really understand what his accomplishments are, but he's still running. Matt Mahan, I know what his accomplishments are. He posted his full kickoff speech to his campaign, so if you're curious about him, you can listen to that. I think he has a lot of interesting things to talk about, but right now he's not polling very well. And I found this fascinating. There was a gubernatorial forum, different than a debate, because in a forum, you're not supposed to directly attack the other candidates. And it's a much more constructive conversation. And Becerra was there, Steve Hilton was there, Matt Mahan was there, Katie Porter was there, Antonio Villaraigosa was there, and Eric Swalwell was there via Zoom. And this was all to talk about the housing crisis. And what I found fascinating, I don't know how any of them would actually be able to implement the things that they are saying, but they all seem to agree on almost every single point on how we need to eliminate some of the nonsense in CEQA. Steve Hilton went as far as to say we need to eliminate the private right of action, which I totally agree with, where anybody could sue, even if it doesn't affect you on behalf of CEQA. It's the same nonsense we have with the Americans with Disabilities Act. But they talked about modular housing. They talked about, Steve Hilton and Matt Mahan talked about, yes, we need to go up, but we should also be able to go out. And there was just a lot of consensus on a lot of good ideas. How you get those implemented and how you move to modular housing without pissing off the building trades unions, I don't know. And in the California crime blotter, Britney Spears got busted for a DUI, even though she blew a .06. But apparently, if you are reckless driving and you have any alcohol in your system, you can still be busted for a DUI. Trespassers have taken over the abandoned train tracks behind a home in Fullerton, and apparently this home has been terrorized for years and years and years, and they finally have decided to lawyer up and sue the train company for allowing that. Crazy guy was trying to kick down a Riverside family's door, and apparently he has a long criminal record, including of attacking synagogues, and he actually used to live in the home, so that's a wild one. City of Alameda seeing a spike in car burglaries and vandalism, bank jugging in San Diego, and a bishop in San Diego caught embezzling. That's the California Report. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to my Substack for the California Report at randywangradio.substack.com. I have said many times that you might hear a lot of things that upset you when we cover the news of the day in Southern California, and you can get upset about it or you can do something about it. And our next guest is graduating from just complaining about what's going on to wanting to do something about this. Our next guest is actually someone who you may have heard many, many, many times on this show. Scott Alan Meyers is running for Congress, and he is now a guest on the News Blitz. Scott Alan Meyers, welcome back to the show.
Randy Wang, thank you for having me.
The website is MeyersForCongress.com, MEYERSFOR Congress.com. So I always like to start these interviews with just some quick education, Scott. You are running for the 30th Congressional District. Where is that?
That was formerly Adam Schiff's congressional district. No one knows who the current congressperson is. We'll get to her later. But it is Glendale, parts of West Pasadena. It's Burbank, it's Silver Lake, it's Atwater, Sunland, Tujunga, West Hollywood, and believe it or not, it dips into Mid-Wilshire, KNX territory.
Oh, boy. Now I think I know exactly why you're running for Congress. So, Scott, give a quick introduction to anyone that doesn't know you as to who you are and why, oh, why you want to commute to D.C.
Well, I've been a lawyer for over 30 years. I run my own business, my own practice. I've had that since for 26 years. I'm a California native. My first foray into politics was being one of the 5 proponents of the Nithya Raman recall in 2021. We served her papers in her driveway 6 months after she took her seat as a council person. Obviously, we did not succeed. We couldn't get the signatures wet signatures in the height of COVID. We didn't factor that in like we should have. So we had to abandon that. So I live in Hollywood. I live in Beechwood Canyon. My office was on Sunset and Vine for many years, and I moved to Burbank because of the squalor that Hollywood presents. Me and my assistants and my clients. So we moved to Burbank, and that's where I am. That's where I am right now.
And so what made you want to run specifically for Congress? Because I've heard you talk a lot about local issues. I've seen you in the face of Karen Bass. Scott, if you don't know, famously got Karen Bass to agree to take a pay cut that she didn't really do in the height of the budget deficit. But what makes you want to be a part of the federal government now?
Well, we need to return to common sense. And the federal government pays about 8 or 9% of the city budget, about same with the county budget. We have leverage, and we're not using it. For example, all of these investigations, these recent FBI arrests with the homeless provider that was serving up ramen, and Alberto Carvalho, and today in MacArthur Park, all these investigations are coming from the federal government. Where is State Controller Malia Cohen? She can audit any level of the state government, any county, any city, and any vendor that gets government money from the city, county, or state. No one even knows her name. Where has she been? Why are we relying on the federal government to audit the books, the high-speed rail? We're over $100 billion over budget, and we're not even going to be alive when it's done, and we may not even want to use it at that time. So we can use federal leverage for, to education. Our education department in California, 6% is financed by the federal government. We have leverage, and we need to use it. We need to use leverage for transparency. These politicians in California, with a few exceptions like Tracy Park or Monica Rodriguez, they won't meet with the public. In fact, there's not even a requirement that they meet with the public, speak to the public, or even speak to the press. So they get elected and they hide. And the press is left, with crumbs, tilting a microphone, trying to get some soundbite so they can call themselves a reporter. But if they push too hard, and I've had 3 people, and all these names, I'll tell you offline, but 3 prominent reporters in this city told me that if you push too hard, they'll cut you off. That's specifically regarding Karen Bass. And this is why you've got to catch her and ask her these ambush questions. Otherwise, you're not going to get an answer. By the way, she did take a pay cut. Quietly took a pay cut of 2.5% in July. Bless her heart.
Well, and Scott, to your point about, the press getting on the bad side of Karen Bass, we saw just a few weeks ago with the PR firm that was hired by the LAFD to help doctor the after-action report of the Palisades fire. Buried in that file was a list of reporters to talk about this with, and they had listed Fox 11 Good Day LA reporter Gigi Graciette as a negative reporter because she's the one that got Kristen Crowley to admit on the record that the fire budget was cut. And so, yes, the politicians are very petty and they control all the power here, and they can immediately deem you a unworthy reporter, even though that violates all kinds of different levels of the First Amendment.
Well, It turns the First Amendment upside down. The press is supposed to keep government transparent. That's the purpose of the press. It's there in the First Amendment. But it's upside down because the government is saying, if you want us to talk to you, we're going to do it on our terms. And the press doesn't fight back. We have something called an LA Press Club. I mean, they appear to be just nothing more than an awards dinner where everyone gets an award eventually if they hang around. But there are a few decent reporters in this town. Matthew Seedorf, everyone's favorite, at least amongst your audience. So, I'm running because everything is so dysfunctional. We need to return to common sense. We have broken roads, broken schools. Our governments are broke. We have encampments that aren't going anywhere. The drug problem. We have single-family neighborhoods are threatened. We're being taxed to death and then taxed again with hidden fees like the rubbish fee, 55% increase. That's after-tax dollars. The gas tax, that's after-tax dollars. Hollywood should be a jewel. I'm glad you had Dylan Kendall on a few weeks ago. Hollywood should be a jewel. But I think the most common phrase heard on Hollywood Boulevard is, honey, let's get out of here. I live in Hollywood. I don't go there. People have lost their hope in this town. People are pondering an escape route. I was with my girlfriend in Nashville about a year ago. We're like, why are we not living here? Well, we're not living there because everything we know is here in Los Angeles. Our family, our friends, our businesses, our homes, a place that we used to love a lot, but now we want to leave. But we don't leave. We want to stay back and fight. And there's a lot of moderate Democrats who are supporting me because they want to return to the days of just common sense and decency and transparency over how our money is spent, and ceasing the hoodwinking that's going on with government and the open air drug markets. I mean, there's no excuse for that. I work in Burbank. You can't dangle a bag of crystal meth at Olive and Alameda. You're in a police car in no time. You could do that in MacArthur Park all day long, and the cops will roll their eyes and keep on moving. These are the problems that we have that I'm tired of. I kind of enjoy being critical. It's a colorful life, that aspect of my life, but I feel like I have to speak up because everybody else is so browbeaten. And although people are changing, there's a lot of moderate Democrats that I think are really about to either switch sides, or at least they're open to the idea of voting for a moderate, common sense, independent-minded Republican like me.
We're speaking with Scott Alan Meyers. He is running for Congress in District 30. MyersForCongress.com is the website. Now, if you become a member of Congress, your district will include Hollywood. And we know that Hollywood's been suffering quite a bit over the last few years when we're talking about the film and television industry. This week, the LA City Council passed a measure that would lower certain permit fees and speed up times for permits. Most people are looking at that saying it might be way too little, way too late, but it's something. But what can you do in the federal government to revive what has been a very damaged industry in Hollywood, with productions not only leaving the state, but leaving the country? Yeah.
Well, there's a bipartisan bill. My opponent's not wrong about everything. She's in favor of that bill. I think it's called the CREATE Act. And that is to give tax credits to bring production back to Southern California. But the problem is that movie receipts, whether it's streaming or in theater, is down 25 to 30% over the past decade. People just aren't interested in seeing movies to the extent that they were a decade ago. Why is that? I don't know. I mean, I've asked certain people. They've considered maybe it's because people's attention span has gotten shorter. Maybe TikTok has overwhelmed people, and that's their entertainment. Maybe it's the wokeism that has been injected in almost all of these new movies. Good God, right? I mean, it's embarrassing to sit there and watch a movie and see something that that is just really just placed into a movie for the purpose of mollifying a very small group of people. And I looked it up. I did the research on streaming. There's a spike in streaming older movies, and the newer movies are being ignored, somewhat being ignored. So there's all these issues about it's the studios, the unions, the creative people. They're the ones that need to figure it out. Even if you bring back runaway production, you still have the problem of movie audiences. I mean, you don't even see movie ads anymore on TV, at least to the extent that we once did. I can't think of a current movie out right now. I really can't. And I used to see movies all the time. So that's for the experts to kind of figure out. But yeah, we should give tax credits. Fine, let's do that. So let's find some way to bring it back. I don't know if it's ever going to come back. I hate to say that. Or maybe the studios need to partner up with these whiz kids on TikTok and make some really great multi-million-dollar blockbuster short videos. I don't know. I mean, I'm just an attorney. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on how to get the audiences back into the theater, but that's the problem.
It definitely is. Last question before you go, Scott. Since you are moving into a legislative role if you are elected, what would be the first piece of federal legislation that you would want to author?
Oh, boy, I didn't expect a question like that. I think it would be pertaining to education. I think if the federal government's going to help finance state education, then we better be producing kids who have earned their degrees, not just sat there and marked time like a potted plant and get doled out a degree that is not earned. We are graduating activists. We're graduating future criminals because they don't have the life skills to go into the market. They don't even know where to start. I'd like to be on the small business committee because I think young people, especially young men, a lot of them don't have fathers, and they're kind of bouncing off walls, and they need direction. Okay, now you're out of high school. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. Well, maybe you should know, and maybe that's where the government can help, because if they don't know what they're going to do and they sit and dwell and smoke weed, then they're going to be having a life of dependency and maybe even a life of criminal activity. It's maybe the only way that they can survive. One of those two things, or both. We have 35% of this state, even before we gave Medi-Cal to illegals, 35% of Californians are on Medi-Cal. Now, I'm a lawyer, and there's a lot of fraud there, too, because as a lawyer, I deal with a lot of injury clients, and I can't tell you how many people are on Medi-Cal who don't deserve to be on Medi-Cal. Now, I can't turn them in because they're my client. It would be a breach of the attorney-client trust, attorney-client privilege, but we need to clean the rolls out of people who are undeserving of Medi-Cal. But that is definitely a big venture. But we're out of time, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk again soon. The website is MyersForCongress.com, MEYERS forcongress.com. Scott Alan Meyers, thanks so much for joining us, buddy. Thank you, Randy.
It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Here's some breaking news for you. Kevin Kiley, Republican member of Congress, has announced when he's running for re-election in District 6, he's running as a no-party preference voter, and that is going to get a whole lot of people asking questions over the weekend. We'll give you more about that on Monday. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. What's going on this weekend in Southern California? Well, the LA Marathon is on Sunday at 7 a.m. starting at Dodger Stadium, finishing in Century City. Over 20,000 runners are expected, and over 20 million Southern Californians will be pissed off about the traffic interruptions. The 2026 Oscar nominee spotlights are happening at the Academy Museum at the 1,000-seat David Geffen Theater, where for just $10 you can catch screenings of all the nominated animated short films, documentary shorts, and live action shorts. And look at this. Barks and Brews. Take your pup to the Arboretum and grab a beer during a dog-friendly event at the Arcadia Botanical Gardens. That sounds like a damn good time. That's going on at the LA County Arboretum Botanical Garden. And you have the Dragon Boat Festival coming back, the 2,000-year-old Chinese tradition, Dragon Boat Racing. That's happening at Burton Chase Park. Thank you all so much for being a part of this show. It's a pleasure to bring it to you every week. Have a great weekend. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.